Okay, cool. What's going on out there in the land of YouTube? How's everybody doing today? I am just YouTubing a little bit today, and I saw a video today that made me stop what I was doing because every single step forward in a way towards statism or to a centralized power that is going to hurt us, we have to reject. We cannot allow the oligarchs to continue to own Republicans and Democrats. There's not a good Republican or a good Democrat. They're all in it together. They're all in it together. There's not a Republican who's good, or, DeSantis, he's running around saying law and order, yay for cops. That's what you get when you get with the Republicans. On the Democratic side, they're just going to lie to us. They're going to lie to our face and say defund police, but then they don't run on that campaign at all. They don't at all. And so I saw a video today that made me take a stop and say, I've got to warn people about this Real ID. What's going on, everybody? Do me a favor, hit the like button. And then I got Brooklyn Audits and Audit Them is here too. Dan Fizzle, what's going on? Dan Allen, how are you, my friend? Good to see everybody. Hasta la Ventures, nice to see you. Good to see you. Your confidence is poquito. Scrubzilla, what's going on, my friend? So you guys have to watch this video. Let me just, because I'm just going to try to keep this as quickly as I can. Let me play this video for you. And then I'm going to stop it when she starts talking about Barack Obama. And I'm going to show you guys some things. I used to have Andrew Johnson, the man who succeeded after Abraham Lincoln was executed. I used to have Andrew Johnson as the worst president in U.S. history, and then you have like a competing group of people for the worst ever. But in my opinion, Barack Obama is the worst president in U.S. history, and history will show he was an absolute scumbag. A lot of you guys now put OTVO in the comment section. Barack Obama was the editor of the Harvard Review Law Library. So people would write papers and opinions and positions, and they would critique previous justices' opinions, and they would all go to Barack Obama. So Barack Obama definitely knew that Terry versus Ohio was created in the vein of racism and that it gave police way too much powers. Did Barack Obama ever tell any of you about Terry versus Ohio? Nobody did. Nobody wants to say it. But the truth is, when you allow these guys to run up to you based on their suspicion, which you're talking about, a dunce cap, a total dunce cap, and this person's in charge. But I want you guys to be Howard Taft right up there. The tribe got it. William Howard Taft set up concentration camps in the Philippines, including rape camps. William Howard Taft did this. And they did so much raping of Filipino women from 1899 until 1906 that the reason the 1965 Immigration Act, written by John F. Kennedy, signed into law by Johnson, because Kennedy is going to be assassinated in 63. So in 1965, the naturalization, the Immigration Naturalization Act had to do with DNA. And William Howard Taft had set up rape camps in the Philippines. And we raped, the American soldiers raped so many Filipino, and some of them had relationships with Filipino women, but we were conquering the island. We were gonna own the Philippines. It was gonna be the United States of Filipino. I don't know what they were thinking, but they were trying to literally conquer the Philippines from 1899 until 1910, and then we abandoned it after that. And so we can't beat these guys, and we couldn't beat them. But we tried everything. We tried concentration camps, we tried rape camps. And because there were so many women that had babies from American soldiers, the reason why there's a gigantic Filipino population in the United States of America is because of the 1899 occupation of the Philippine Islands. And that was William Howard Taft, who is the worst. I mean, he's right in there in the top 5 for worst presidents ever. You got Trump, you got Biden, you got Obama, you got Reagan, you got Bill Clinton. I mean, look at my 5 worst. The 5 worst I have: Trump, Obama, Biden, Reagan, Clinton. All of those have been in the past couple decades, in the past few decades. They're the worst, but Barack Obama to me takes the cake. He is the worst. He is the devil on earth. Trump and him together, people think Trump's a good dude. Trump's a terrible person, horrible person. He rips off everybody. But Obama knew that George W. Bush drove the car into the ditch, but then he just kept on executing people in the Middle East, executing them using a deck of cards and saying, this guy has a king value and this one has a queen value and this one's an ace of spades. And so you take young adolescent men, because you're in your third stage of adolescence, from 18 to 25 years old. There's 3 stages of adolescence. The first one starting at 11 or 12 years old, going till 15 or 16. The second stage of adolescence starting around 15 or 16 and going until you're 18 or 19. The last stage of adolescence being from 18 or 19 all the way up to you're 25 years old. Those are the 3 stages of adolescence. Amazing that you would be an adolescent as a teenager, but you are. So, I learned this by auditing a master's course in child development. So, now that we understand a couple of things, and I've said some things out loud here, now let me show you why I say Barack Obama. Because when Barack Obama got into the office, when he took over the office after George W. Bush, and he knew that Bush had gone into Iraq with fake weapons of mass destruction, he just kept the wars going. He expanded them to other countries, allowed Hillary to kill Gaddafi. I mean, I wish I could just take my brain and just give you the knowledge that I read in my lifetime, so you guys really know. It's pathetic. But now let's get into the real ID, and I want to show you guys something, and how if you have a real ID, throw it away and go get a state ID. You don't have to use the real ID, and they can't stop you from flying. I'm going to show you this woman's video. Of course, I want you to like and subscribe and share her video, because it's so absolutely spot on. So
for joining me today. My name is Twyla Braze. I am president and co-founder of Citizens Council for Health Freedom. And today I'm not here to talk with you about COVID-19. I'm coming to you with Real ID. Now, some of you may wonder why an organization that focuses on health freedom would be concerned about Real ID. But we look at this card as a national ID card, and it will become a no card, no care card. So in other words, a national ID card that would become a single number for which all sorts of things, including your access to health care, it will be used for. So without this card, eventually, if enough people get it, without this card, the government could say you can't access healthcare services. So let me just tell you a little bit of history and tell you why I'm bringing this to your attention today. So the history of this is that in 2005, a few years after 9/11, Congress passed this law in the dead of the night, truly in the dead of the night. U.S. Senator Lamar Alexander called it a national ID card and warned against it. But the Congress went forward on a bill that was labeled tsunami. It was about tsunamis. So it was really very hidden. Well, then what happened is that the federal government issued regulations. The states saw the threat to their state driver's licenses and their constitutional rights, their 10th Amendment states' rights, and they started passing laws, many unanimously on a bipartisan basis against complying with the federal government's Real ID Act. And for many, many years, that's exactly where that stood. In 2007, 2008, 2009, state legislators said, yeah, no, we are not going to take the Real ID. It cannot be imposed here. The governor can't do it. The legislature can't do it. It can't happen. But then in late 2015, the Obama administration came up with a very clever idea. And so they started to announce that if you don't get the Real ID, you will not be able to fly. And they heralded this idea everywhere, and the media helped them.
It's an absolute lie. They lied. You can still fly without some tracking ID card that tracks your face and tracks your physical movement.
And so the American people became very afraid that they would not be able to fly, and they put pressure on their state legislators, and their state legislators started to cave. And so one by one, legislators decided to comply with the Real ID law. However, most states have given people a right to have a standard driver's license instead. And so I want to tell you several things about the Real ID. One, you don't need a Real ID to fly. That's the first thing you need to know. You don't need one to fly. And I have right here from the Department of Homeland Security the actual language that says you don't need it to fly. Here you go. It's right here. It says DHS, that stands for the Department of Homeland Security, notes that individuals without a Real ID compliant document will still be able to enter federal facilities and board commercial aircrafts. So you can still fly. And you know that now if you have been to an airport and you have looked at one of their signs about Real ID, where they actually tell you that if you need a Real ID or other acceptable documents. That was not talked about during the 2 years where Real ID was being imposed state by state back in like 2016 and 2017. They didn't talk about that, but they're talking about that now because so many states are having a hard time putting the machinery into place to make the Real ID happen that they are very concerned that people will end up at the airport on October 1st of this year without a Real ID, and they won't be able to fly, and it will be a disaster at airports around the country. So they're actually telling the truth now that you can have other types of documentation. So I'm going to show you some of those other types of documentation. Here's a whole list from the Department of Homeland Security. There's an entire list. Now, what most people will do is they'll get a passport or a passport card or perhaps an enhanced driver's license. Now, you might be wondering why should you even be concerned about the Real ID? Oh, or maybe the first question is, why am I bringing it up? I'm bringing it up because there's a brand new campaign out of the Department of Homeland Security to get you to agree to the Real ID rather than a standard driver's license and using a passport to fly. So here's their campaign.
So I just want to chime in here real quick. It's a lie. You don't have to have the Real ID. I won't get the Real ID. I'll never get the Real ID. I'm not giving them a scan of my face, and I'm not giving them a chip in a card. It's a lie. You don't have to have the Real ID to travel. I'll let her continue to explain it.
It's called Be Your Real ID Self. Be Your Real ID Self. This is the latest Homeland Security campaign to get you to take the Real ID instead of a standard driver's license. Now, I told you that states were concerned about states' rights, and so I'm just going to show you this letter from the Pennsylvania legislature to President Trump back in January 24th, 2017. Here you go. And I'll show you that bottom part. I'll read that to you. It says, opposition to the Federal Real ID Act in Pennsylvania has been based on the following concerns. And they have 4, but I'm only going to read the first one. And the first one is called States' Rights. States have been the exclusive regulator of driver licensing and have instituted their own regulations and policies regarding the issuance of licenses and safety information and other aspects of transportation policy administration. Then they go on to talk about the 10th Amendment. The 10th Amendment establishes that, quote, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, end quote. And then they say this one sentence. By federalizing driver licensing, the Real ID Act usurps this power, which has been reserved to the states. Well, with all the pressure from DHS and with all the pressure back then when they were saying you can't fly, even Pennsylvania has agreed to the Real ID Act, but that doesn't mean that you have to agree to have a Real ID. And this is why I'm bringing you this message now, because the push is on to get everybody to get a Real ID, and I have reasons why you should decide not to. And those include, not only is it a Real ID card, not only is it a violation of states' rights and therefore your individual rights, You have to understand that it was established by and designed by the federal government, and it has to be approved by the federal government. This truly is a national ID. We've never had one in this country. And the more people that choose to get a real ID, the more likely it is that businesses and governments around the country will start to demand the real ID. And then we will truly have a fully implemented national ID card in this country. The more people refuse to get the real ID card, the more difficult it will be for them to require it for things like, I wrote a list here, banks, government, clinics, hospitals, business, hotels, buying a firearm, everything you could think of will eventually require the real ID if enough
If you get it,
choose it.
if you
This
get
is
it,
why you should not choose it.
you should get rid of it. If you got the real ID, cut it into pieces. Go down and get a state ID. And if she's going to continue here, she's going to tell you that the airlines are a major economic hub and that to deny you flying would affect their bottom line in a huge way. Remember, it only took 3% of us patriots to start the Civil War, to fight back against a tyrannical England. And that's where we are now. We're right there again. So I'm going to let her finish here because she has a few more things to add that are very important. Make sure you guys, let me put the link for this. Make sure you guys pop over here real quick and subscribe to her channel and tell her that I sent you over. Get rid of your real ID. It takes all of us. Don't be a sheeple. Did you line up for that jab? Are you thinking every day, am I going to die suddenly now? You lined up for the jab for a free donut or a free Big Mac. Don't go to mom and pop stores and spread everybody out. Let's put everybody at the big box stores, kill all the small businesses, give all the money to Target and Walmart. Listen to what else she has to say, and then I'll come back on in a second.
You can protect states' rights, individual rights, your privacy, your freedom. Keep yourself from being tracked under this one national ID number. All of that you can do by choosing a standard driver's license, a standard identification card. Choose to not purchase the real ID, which does tend to be more expensive in addition. So the last thing that I'm going to say about that is, yes, you can fly without it. And your freedom means, protecting your freedom means saying no to a real ID. Oh, and I did forget one other thing. Here's what the law says. The law says that the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security has unilateral power to decide additional official purposes for which the card will be required. So right now it is federal buildings, flying on commercial aircraft, and nuclear facilities. But whoever happens to be in that position of Secretary of Homeland Security could decide. It needs to be used for medical care. It needs to be used.
Don't get it twisted. Secretary of Homeland Security is a cop. And that cop is against you. That cop is against you. Whether I like it or not, they're against us. We are against our government. We are versus our government. We have to fight back against this government using the paperwork and the laws already established because I'm not for violence. Now, for those of you guys who decide to burn things down, God bless you. I wish you the best on your journey. I can't endorse what you do, but I'm good with you. I appreciate what you're doing. We have to fight back. My way is through petitioning, through lawsuits, through using the paperwork already created. But for people who are burning down Cop City, I don't have any ill will towards them. 28 people charged with domestic terrorism. The domestic terrorists are the cops in our country. Okay, so let me play her out.
To rent a car. It needs to be used to position of Secretary of Homeland Security could decide. It needs to be used for medical care. It needs to be used to rent a car. It needs to be used to rent a hotel or to stay in a hotel.
Right.
It needs to be used every time you go into the bank. That's what the law says. And when the states bow to the federal law, and if more and more people actually get a real ID card instead of a standard driver's license, that's where we'll get to. we'll get to this being required for every transaction and then a one number, one tracking number for everyone in this country. So I encourage you to say no to the Real ID.
One tracking number with your facial recognition, with all currency being digital, with centralized healthcare. I used to be a huge proponent of free healthcare. I mean, I'm telling you, I was all the way in. We need free healthcare. The other countries have free healthcare. We need to have free healthcare. I'm still for free healthcare. I'm not for free healthcare through the government. They will cut you off. If I get cancer as the activist that I am and the government doesn't like me, well, then they'll just put a no care. Just they push a button, no care. And then your Real ID, you don't get access to any urgent cares, any hospitals, nothing. She's warning us, get rid of your Real ID. Get rid of it. Just get rid of it. So now I want to show you something more about Barack Obama. Now, we're all familiar with Matt Taibbi and him showing us that Twitter is full of FBI, CIA, and government actors. It's called joint state actors. It's illegal, it's a felony, and they should all go to prison. Not a single Twitter executive will go to prison, not a single government agent will go to prison, and neither will the actors. They will all get away with it, every one of them, because they're all washing each other's hands. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So Barack Obama, scumbag, total scumbag. I campaigned for Barack Obama. I went from door to door with a friend of mine up in the birds. We campaigned for him. We raised thousands, and we raised a lot of money for Obama through the rich people in California up in the Doheny district, which is a housing district in Los Angeles. Now, I campaigned for Barack Obama, raised thousands of dollars for him. And then by the time he was elected, and then in November of 2008, in 2009, I said, impeach Barack Obama and send him to the gallows, because he began a drone campaign of murdering people in the Middle East and saying, oh, this is a jack of hearts. And then the young men and women that we sent over to get the weapons of mass destruction that didn't exist, that he said weren't real, but then he just kept the wars going. Piece of shit that Barack Obama is. He then murdered 1 million people. He would have a jack of hearts at a wedding party and drone the entire party. But what he did internationally isn't even a speck of what he did domestically. He is the modern J. Edgar Hoover. Barack Obama, may he burn in hell when he dies. You piece of shit, Obama. You piece of shit. And now let me show you exactly what I'm talking about. This guy set up. So if we know that Twitter is full of FBI, CIA, and joint state actors who are working to oppress our vote or to manipulate us through Cambridge Analytics or a host of other things, well, then what could you think Barack Obama could do? Mark Zuckerberg and Barack Obama are in a relationship. Now, of course, on the Democratic side, they want this to be all cute and pretty. Oh, so just so you know, when you check the White House check-in, it was 2009, I believe, or 2010. Barack Obama and Mark Zuckerberg got together 200 times in 1 year because Obama was installing the FBI and the CIA and absolute technocracy. Obama created the technocracy that we live in today. Barack Obama traveled to Facebook, Palo Alto's headquarters, and look at the year on this. This is 4/20/2011. We were all getting stoned and enjoying 420. Obama was setting up so that we would all be screwed out of our rights. That's what he was doing. Barack Obama traveled to Facebook, the first town hall meeting as an official candidate for re-election. Participation post queries for the talk about shared responsibility and shared transparency. And prosperity, but no transparency. And Facebook will select the questions, which we predict will have nothing to do with secondary markets, the SEC, or what happens to the tech bubble goes public. Between the intimate dinner at John Doerr's house for Silicon Valley execs and abortive attempt to hire Robert Gibbs as Zuckerberg's own press secretary, marks the latest cozying up between the Facebook and the White House. The Journal reported to plan to hire Gibbs had fallen apart in the wake of a leak to the media that made a deal for him to join the company sound imminent. Facebook's $351,000 in lobby, and this is 2011, are dwarfed by the 5.2 million laid out by Google or the 6.9 million spent by Microsoft. The tech industry has a habit of ignoring Washington until they need lawmakers on their side. So this was in 2011. But it just keeps going. Barack Obama was literally the worst president we've ever had. We've never had a president as bad as Barack Obama. So right here, it says Barack Obama meets with Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg. And this is in 2017. Now, who's Obama? Why is Obama meeting with the Facebook CEO? The CEO of Google were in attendance. The CEOs of Oracle, Twitter, and Netflix. The dinner was at the home of venture capitalist Democratic donor John Doerr. So let me ask you guys a real quick question. Do you think John Doerr has your best interest in mind? The Democratic fundraiser who gives multi-millions of dollars to Democrats so that they can then create censorship across every single social media platform, except for now Twitter that was bought by Elon Musk. Barack Obama set this all up. Set it all up. I mean, that's just the way it is. It sucks, but it's true. And then every one of them, Trump got in. Did you see Trump go, hey man, Twitter's full of CIA and FBI? No, he did not. Does he get briefings from the CIA and FBI? Yes, he does. Trump does. Trump knew the FBI was involved with the Twitter. Trump, if he read the briefs given to him, then he knew the information because he can literally get any piece of information that he wants. So who was worse, Obama or Trump? Obama did it, and then Trump got in. He saw it and didn't tell us. I mean, don't get your politics involved with the truth. Don't get your yay, yay Democrats, yay, yay Republicans. Don't get the truth mixed in with your brainwash that Democrats are going to help you or Republicans are going to help you. Until we have a third party that has a legitimate voice at the table, and it's certainly not libertarians. It's a joke. Not a single representative in government is libertarian. Is there one now? Is there a single libertarian? Is there even one libertarian who holds a representative title in the United States Congress or in a state house even? I mean, how many, I mean, it's just so true. I'm sorry. The Libertarian Party, nobody can be the leader. I'm the leader. I'm running for governor. And I'm going to change it from the top down. Real ID will not be allowed in the state that I'm the governor. You don't have to have a real ID in the state that I'm the governor in. Plain and simple. We have to change it from the top down. Pull up your bootstraps and grassroots effort. It's a lie. We've been lied to for decades and decades and decades. And you go out and get the real ID, and your cowardice is ruining it for the rest of us. I'm not getting that real ID. I'm not using the real ID. I'm not purchasing the real ID. I don't subscribe to the real ID, and I will not ever get it. You don't get to track me through an ID card. I thought I were in the land of the free and the home of the brave. But now you have an ID card that tracks you. Literally, the card has a tracking device in it. It does facial recognition. And then they want that one ID number to be able to cut you off from healthcare, cut you off from baking, cut you off from social media, cut you off from your paycheck. The real ID card is the absolute devil's mark. 666, number of the beast. It's written right across your forehead with the real ID card. If you have the real ID card, cut it into pieces and go get a state ID card. You don't have to have that card. You just heard her. And you can petition your state government, say, I don't want a national ID card. I mean, you have to understand, this is not the plan of our founding fathers, that we get tracked and we get pulled over to check our chemicals. When I'm the governor, DUI checkpoints will come to an end in the state that I'm the governor. There will be no more DUI checkpoints. We will have voluntary pullovers for people who are impaired. And then the state that's supposed to be your brother's keeper will have people to drive your car home and have a conversation with you about whether or not you have an alcohol problem and you need help. Then we're our brother's keeper. But instead, we're trying to get them. And it hasn't worked. They've been saying cops are cracking down on DUIs since the 80s. It's never been worse. People drive impaired never more than right now in 2023. But cops are cracking down for 43 years now. Oh, we should be afraid of pigs? I should be scared of piggies? No, I'm not. I'm not. I'm not going to jail, you filthy pigs. You're not just dragging me off to a dungeon. Unless I've created a victim, sworn by oath or affirmation, you're not just dragging me off to a dungeon. Not going, not happening. I'm not surrendering. The answer is absolutely not. The answer is no. I don't just turn around, put your hands behind your back. No, I'm not. Get it on camera. Have someone film the way the government is treating us so we can change it. Don't just turn around, put your hands behind your back. F you. I'm not just turning. No. There's no victim. Who's victimized? Show me the person with the black eye or the bloody nose. Show me the victim of the stolen money, of the stolen car. Show me someone I stole from. Show me a victim I created before you put me in torture cuffs. I don't agree to them and I won't go in them. Unless you're going to kill me. And last I checked, I'm 220 pounds. Good luck. Tase me, beat me, kick me, stick me. Get it on camera. Show the world what they're doing to us. But Google, who works for China, they'll make sure your video can't be seen. You know, the last audit I did, they demonetized. It's got 100,000 views. They demonetized my last audit. Why? Don't know. Because Google is China. YouTube is China. You have to have people to build a credit default system in China. The people who did it are Americans named Google, named YouTube. This is the evil empire we're on right now. Why do you think I'm suing them? Why do you think I'm suing YouTube? How come? Because slowly but surely, the paperwork that founds our country eventually will reach the truth. Eventually it will reach. And if it takes the people who burn things down, God bless you guys. I'm not going to burn things down. I'm not going to ask my people to burn things down. But if that's what has to happen and those folks do it, I'm not a part of that. It might be a necessary part of what we're doing, but I'm not going to do that. And make sure you stay focused. It's the courthouses and it's the police stations. It's not it's not your local Wendy's or McDonald's. You know, don't be burning things down. It's just not the best way to do things. But if you do, stay focused for the love of God. You know, my people, don't join that. Don't join violence. Because we're heading to a revolutionary war. We can all see it. They're trying to track us through the real ID. You can't travel, you can't bank, you can't get health care. That's what they're trying to do with Real ID. Reject it. Openly reject it. Don't fall to violence. Fall to sitting in peace and protesting, and do not just surrender your wrists to being arrested. No. You're not just turning me around and putting me in torture cuffs. No, I want you to go through the physical difficulties so when you get home that night, you realize you are a tyrant and you are a pig. And you're against freedom and liberty. And look how dumb the cops are now. They can't get good people to sign up to be pigs anymore. So they're just taking the bottom of the barrel. The prison guards who couldn't pass the test, anybody who will sign up that doesn't have, and now they're changing it where you can have a criminal record because everybody has a criminal record. Everybody. How many people? 80%, 70% of Americans? I don't know what the percentage is, but it's a lot. Have some sort of criminal record, whether that be a traffic ticket, a speeding ticket, a turning ticket, whether that be anything. Someone can just say that you did something wrong and then you get charged and then you have to take a plea deal and that's on your record still. So I just wanted you guys to, I just want you guys to reject the Real ID. If you have it, get rid of it. Get rid of it. It's tracking you. There's a chip in there. Did you microwave it for a minute? Did you put it in the microwave for 60 seconds? You might want to think about doing that. My passport went in the microwave. As soon as I got my passport, I microwaved it for 60 seconds. There's a chip in my passport. I don't want to be tracked by the government. I microwaved my passport. I microwaved my passport. I microwaved my passport. So, you know, I'm sorry. I just want people to realize that the people who talk real nice and give good speeches, George Bush drove us into a ditch. Barack Obama is the worst president in U.S. history, and it's not close. He murdered 1.5 million people on the other side of the earth where the George Bush liar said there was weapons of mass destruction. Obama knew better, but the military industrial complex said to him, we're going to do what we want, and you get to fly around your helicopter and make fancy speeches. Keep the people in the domestic, keep them all occupied with your wonderful speeches. We're going to murder millions of people over here in the Middle East, even though we know there's no weapons of mass destruction. We know that. Barack Obama, just go out and talk. George Bush drove us into a ditch, but now I'm just going to gun down everybody in the ditch. Like, Barack Obama, you're such a scumbag, bro. You're such a scumbag. Like, biggest scumbag ever. And then right next to him, sorry guys, Trump is right next to him. He's right next to him. He ripped off every person he ever did business with. Ron DeSantis, right now, he stood up against the tyranny of the pandemic, and now he's doing rallies all over Florida called Law and Order, passing laws that you can't go to judges' houses and picket them. Judges are the bane of freedom in our country. The biggest obstacle to freedom in America is the United States judges because of the 1951 case of Tenney versus Brandoff, which gives judges immunity. People talk about qualified immunity for cops. It's not even 1/100% of how important it is to get rid of qualified immunity for judges. From the 1967 case of Pearson versus Ray, a racist case from 1961 that was heard in 67 by the Supreme Court, that's what gives police qualified immunity. It's 100% racist. Tenney versus Brandoff in 1951 is based on making sure that we don't have anybody un-American around here. World War II ends in 1945. They start the Tenney Commission in 1946 or 1947. By 1949, that blows up because there's no rules to the commission. Anything un-American, they're allowed to investigate anything un-American. Well, one of the guys in the committee says, I'm not down with this. I object. And then he gets afraid that he's going to be charged, so he pleads the fifth about everything. He had one hell of a story to tell. Tenney versus Brandoff gives judges in America qualified immunity. And it's the worst. It's more important than the 1967 case of Pearson versus Ray, and it's not remotely close. Judges having immunity is the problem. So we just have so many problems. That's exactly right. We need good leadership. Your confidence is poquito. He just said it. We need good leadership. It's right there. So that's why I'm running for governor. And it might be as far as 2030 before I run, but I'm running for governor, and I'm going to win, and I'm going to win on a third party that I create. Because I think there's more people who are pro-choice and pro-Second Amendment than anything else. I think more people, and we don't have a safety net for women that want to have babies. We just have an abortion. We don't have a safety net to educate them and take care of them for several years so that we can get our birth rate up. And if you didn't know that, if you're unfamiliar, if you don't know what's really going on, the Xennials, the youngest generation now, they're the smallest generation. So they pay taxes, and then they have to support up here the boomer generation that's this big. There's not enough taxes from the small group of people to support this many people on Social Security. Now, I'm a Gen Xer. I'm only 48 years old. But that means within the next 10 or 15 years, all of Social Security will be eaten up because it's a reverse pyramid. The biggest generation is boomers, and then it goes Gen X, and then it goes millennials, and then it goes Xennials. So it's a pyramid of earning income. And so when you're talking about a pyramid of earning income, the taxes that the boomers made, they paid for the generation. The boomers right above them is called the greatest generation. The greatest generation was supported by the taxes from the boomers. The greatest generation was this big. The boomer generation was this big. So the greatest generation that was this big, it had enough tax dollars by the boomers here to support the greatest generation. And then it went reverse. Gen X, millennials, Xennials. So we're like this. There's not enough tax dollars to support all the medical needs that the boomers are going to have. This year, 2022, was the year that all the boomers start retiring. That means they take all of the money that they have in stocks and any kind of risky assets, and they sell or liquidate those stocks or assets because they live now on a set income. They don't have any more money coming in. The boomers don't, because they quit working. They retired. So all the money they were making comes to an end, and now they're pulling money out of the system into their pocket. So they were contributing the most they'd ever contributed. At 65, you're making the most money you're ever going to make. And so they're contributing into the system the most they're ever going to do. The next year in 2022, they retire and they start taking money from the system. Well, down here at the very bottom are xenials, and they're working and paying taxes, and their tax money goes right up to the boomers who now need a heart transplant, now need new valves, new tubes, new kidneys, new lungs, new eyes. They need new things, healthcare. Well, healthcare, a gigantic portion of Social Security for boomers is healthcare. So the money that Gen X put in is going to be eaten up by the larger generation above it. And then millennials are going to see us, the Gen X, and their tax dollars are not going to be able to cover us because most of the tax dollars are going to be used for the boomers. So we're in a really bad problem here. We're in a really bad problem here. So the worst thing we need, the last thing we need is the government tracking you through Real ID, cutting off your bank account. What'd they do to the truckers in Canada? They cut off their bank accounts. I don't know how Trudeau is still alive. I don't know how he's still walking around Canada. I mean, I don't live in Canada. I got no beef with him. I'm surprised he's still alive. I figured the Canadians would have a real beef with the new modern day Hitler named Justin Trudeau. I mean, he literally is like Hitler. Said that you don't have any time for people who don't want to get the jab, and now we're seeing the jab kills you. Are you afraid you're going to suddenly die if you got the jab? I just wonder that. How many people got the jab that are afraid they're going to suddenly die? I just wonder how many people. I mean, I know if I got the jab and I saw all these people suddenly dying, I would be afraid I was going to suddenly die. But I actually left California when they started kicking me out of restaurants and bars, and I said, no, not bars, restaurants and stores. I don't really go to bars very often. So, you know, and if you guys want to know, let me just share with you guys something so that you guys can, if you really want to know geopolitics with Zihan. So let me share this with you guys. Let me share this channel with you so that you guys know what to look at. If you want to learn about geopolitics, I've been watching this guy. I've been watching a few people. But I watch Zihan on geopolitics. I watch this guy's channel all the time. I watch a few channels, but this is one of them. I watch a lot of them. And when you go, he goes on his videos, he explains how this is the year that everybody was going to retire. The beginnings of the retirement would happen. And he explains how we've entered into a new era of, so let me explain it to you so you guys can understand something. So we've all heard of Christopher Columbus. You've heard of that before. Well, his journey between Spain and England and the New World, the Americas, is called the Columbian Voyage. Christopher Columbus, Columbian adventure, Columbian voyage, Columbian trek, right? So the Columbian trek, what it did is it connected Europe with the United States of America. Those two continents were connected now, and it became a global trading system based on the Columbian trek. This is what happened. Now, America, the United States, has been a gigantic world police in the Navy with the waters. We've made sure that we could get goods back and forth. And this has been going on for centuries now. Since the Revolutionary War back in 1783, we have been absolutely in this horrific fight for freedom. And you could even say the Revolutionary War started in 1776 and it's not going to end until 1783. So, you know, we're going to have, but the point is the Columbian voyage that connected and created this world economy that we live in today, that's coming to an end because of the shortage of births, because there's not enough people to support all the supply chains necessary. I mean, this is all stuff readily available on the internet. You can learn this yourself. You can start by listening to Geopolitics according to Zihan and listen to the things he's saying. But the Columbian adventure, connecting the new world to the old world, that's when all the Native Americans were wiped out, because over in Europe, they had domesticated animals to live with them. I'm kind of getting to history here, but the point is that Columbian adventure is what we've been living under since the Revolutionary War. And now that's changing for the first time in 2 centuries. So we're going to have some real chinks in the armor as we move forward. And so they're going to try to control us in every way possible. And so that's why I'm going to a single digit birthday party right now. I'm going to go and share my time and my love with some single digit children right now. So I'm looking forward to doing that. So anyway, I just wanted to get on here, reject the real ID, tell every single person, share this video. If you really want to support the channel, make sure you share, comment. Like even when this live is ended, go and drop a few comments, because they're trying to slow us down. They're trying to slow us down, but you can't slow me down, Google. You're not going to slow me down. You might slow down my YouTube growth or my Google growth, but you're not going to stop me unless you can kill me, because I'm going into government. I'm going to become the executive of a state, and I'm going to change it from the top down. And watch if they kill me. Watch, because I'm going to change this bullshit system. I cannot accept this. I will not accept it. It has to be changed. So there it is. Anyway, listen, I've been on here for 45. I'm going to get the flock out of here. Thank you guys so much for coming. I really appreciate it. Good to see all you guys. Dan, Malicious, what's going on? Zen, nice to see you, my friend. Boy, Madison Lee, who, Madison. So just so you guys know, Madison Lee goes to all channels. She's not just this community is full of love and acceptance, and we embrace one another. Madison Lee gets that loving and embracing from troll channels, from every single kind of channel you could imagine. I've got about 400 screenshots someone sent me. Madison goes to every channel. So if she wants to share goodwill here, happy to see it. A friend to everyone is really a friend to no one. So just keep that in mind. All right. Nice seeing you guys, and I will see you guys on the next one. Thanks for coming by. Later, Gators.